Hey guys, Mitch here. So today I'm going to do a quick review on the Gravely chute blocker. So this is the chute blocker that Gravely actually sell with their mowers. It's an extra accessory. It doesn't actually come with it. You just get the normal big flap that comes out the side here, and I think if you're buying a mower when you've got issues getting into gates and stuff like that, it's really pointless at leaving that thing on. So that was the first thing I took off, and then put this straight on. So you can see here, close up design, she's a bit full of grass and whatever now, but it's actually got holes in it. I think that obviously helps with airflow and whatever as the machine's working. But I've never actually noticed anything come through it. So you would think it would. I definitely thought it would, but I've never had an issue of anything coming through it. So I haven't done any windows or noticed anything actually when you're going with it open and closed. I don't know if you've watched any of my other videos, you might actually see that me opening and closing it from time to time. So you can see here how it works. It just goes up and down those slots there. So that's in the fully closed position there. And so how it's you sort of put it together, but it's got there's a hole in the deck there where that thing slides into, and then there's little slots in the deck here where it's built to go in, and so it's really easy to put. The hardest thing he's doing is putting actually all the bits and pieces together in this, which it probably took me about half an hour to put it together and put it on. So once you've got the unit set up, it's just a matter of putting it on and bolting it on. So that's a piece of cake. So the way it works is this toggle here. So you can see it's pretty ergonomic in its design. It's got little finger slots there, which you just sort of rest your fingers on anyway. But as you're driving along, you push it down and then pull it up. That's to pull it back, sorry, to make it go up. So you can see there. You can have it sort of half closed, half open. There is a little slot in the thing for that. So sometimes I do that. I do run with it half open, especially on a lawn where there's not much grass and you're sort of just tidying it up. And it does sort of deflect whatever's coming out down rather than letting it go up. So when you obviously got the chute fully open, it sort of flies out everywhere. When you got it half open, you're sort of deflecting it down to the ground a bit more. And then you got fully closed. So I think in the fully closed position it works quite well. But when you're purchasing one of these things, don't ever think that it's going to turn it into a mulcher. It doesn't. It might help it mulch a little bit, but it definitely leaves windrows on the grass. So down as you're mowing, down this side here, as the grass hits that plate and basically just falls to the ground. And if you're cutting a good amount of grass, it definitely leaves windrows. But there are times when you might need it, and then it's just a matter of going over it again, maybe through the middle of your mower or whatever it might be, and just sort of helping disperse it and spread the grass clippings once you've made that windrow. Quite often it's more, I will have it down as a precautionary going over a lawn, and then if it leaves a windrow, I will open the deck up to spread it out, because that generally when I do that, I do lift the deck a notch or two, so you're not going to collect any stones or anything like that, and then that would obviously defeat the purpose of having the chute blocker on there a bit of the time, because the conditions out in Australia are a little bit different. Well, for me anyway. Quite often I'm doing a lawn that is more like a dirt area with grass on it, not necessarily a grass area with dirt on it. So it's can be a bit rough at times, and I'll probably insert a little clip into this just to show you what I'm talking about. and then, you know, so you would have been able to see in that clip there, there's, you know, it's pretty rocky at times, and that it can be rough, and you know, as much as you're trying to stop grass, you're trying to stop stones from flying into cars or windows or whatever it might be at the same time. So the way it works is there's 3 levels of notches. So you can see there, that little notch bit there. So that when you go along, you put that down, and then that slides it forward, or slides it back, sorry, and then that goes up, and then yeah, so yeah, it's a very simple and strong design, well built. You can see it just goes in there, you know, bolts on there, and is, you know, it's pretty tough. So this thing being nice and short, it's good. I like it better than my Skag one. The Skag had a real long rod on it, and used to get caught on stuff all the time, and it was a bit flimsier. It was like made of really soft aluminium, and it, you know, it just felt like it could break quite easy, whereas this is, you know, really strong, sturdy stuff. It's not going anywhere, so it's really good. The other thing too I like about it is that you can actually drive and put it down at the same time. You don't have to stop, but I think that's probably got to do with these design of Gravely's arms here. So you can see they're quite close together, so, and you really, these arms actually don't move much at all, so it's nearly like a walker in the fact that you can probably, you know, if you got good at it, you could probably use one arm to do it, but I mean, I don't normally, I just use 2 arms, but you can on the fly put that down or up and just keep going with, you know, with one hand, because they come together quite close in the middle there. So I think that's a good design, just in you know, pairing those 2 things together, as putting that down on the fly as well as keeping on going. So now as far as the mower goes, I'm really happy with it so far. Nothing's gone wrong, you know, mechanically or anything. The only thing I have had happen, I had it last week actually, just the deck belt come off for whatever reason. I think it was just because the spring was always a bit loose, and I always used to notice it used to sort of, you know, the belt would vibrate quite a bit, and it was just the first job in the morning, and I don't know whether it was because it was cold or because it was a freezing morning, whether that's why, but the belt just popped off, and I think it come off at the back. It didn't come off at the front in these ones. It's come off under, you know, the one that connects it from the engine to the deck. That come off, so it's just a matter of putting it back on, and I actually tightened the spring up, so you can see there that bolt, I just sort of pulled that back this way, so from right to left, as you'll see it, to tighten that up. Then that tightened the belt up, so hopefully that will stop that happening again. But as I said, it was the first time it's ever happened. It didn't happen again after it, so all good. But yeah, I'm happy with the machine. You know, I'm pretty much used to it now, and everything's good. I mean, they're pretty straightforward, really. But yeah, it always starts first time. It's always good starter, and plenty of power for what I do. But yeah, back to the chute blocker. Yeah, it does its job. It's well designed, well built. No complaints. It was expensive, but you know, it was all part of my sort of, you know, what I budgeted for my mower, because I think it's a necessity. Unless you've got a mulch kit on. My first season I run with a mulch kit generally the whole time, and then I would have to take the plate off, and that was a sort of a pain in the ass, taking that plate on and off all the time. So since getting rid of that mower, I've had chute blockers, and then just let the grass fly, you know, most of the time, and that's, you know, as far as looking after your machine and that goes, it's so much easier on the machine, because you're not mulching it up. That really is hard on your machines, and I think if you have a let's say residential style mower, not a commercial mower with, you know, an underpowered engine and you know, components that aren't, you know, top quality commercial, your mower's not going to last very long with a mulch kit. It'll just it's hard on the engine. It's much harder on the engine, and then your belts and everything that goes with that. So yeah, mulch kits are fine in certain situations. I think if you're weekly mowing and it's always the same, and you never get really long stuff, your grass is pretty easy to cut, then yeah, go for a mulch kit. If you're doing in Australian conditions, especially southeastern Australian with big thick kikuyu, where at times you're doing quite a lot of thick grass and wet grass and that sort of stuff, having a mulch kit I think is a waste of time. You spend more time with the plate off, and then that just defeats the purpose of it, just because it's too thick to go through with the mulch kit. So yeah, that's why I got that on there, so I can just block it from going into garden beds, cars, whatever it might be, just for my own peace of mind and the ability to be able to stop grass flying around. But it does not work like a mulch kit. It may mulch it up a little bit better, but quite often I'll do it. It'll make a windrow down the side, and I'll just go over it again and disperse it, as I need to. So yeah, as I said, it's a good design. Happy with it, and I think it's well worth it, especially if you own a Gravely. I'm not sure if they go on other mowers. They probably would, but I don't know for a fact. I mean, all decks are relatively similar. Maybe the dimensions might be slightly different or something like that, but you can see there it's got different slots for the different size mowers that they make. But yeah, so might be something to look into for someone who's looking for it. I recommend it. I think it's better than the Quick Chute. I think it's better built. And yeah, obviously if you own a Gravely or are thinking about Gravely, and that's a good feature to put on your mower. Righto guys.